guys know now who won.
Okay.
Drum roll.
Okay.
And the winner is Caitlin Clark.
Nobody has been appending the basketball world like Caitlin Clark. In an instant, the youthful star of the Indiana Fever transformed from a college legend to a professional icon. She became a national celebrity overnight thanks to her extraordinary talent, fierce enthusiasm, and bold leadership. She immediately became the face of the WNBA after shattering records at Iowa.
Her first year was electrifying.
She wasn't simply keeping up by the second year. She was taking the lead. It was demonstrated in July 2025 when Caitlin won WNBA Player of the Year at the ESPYs, one of the greatest awards in the sport. Yes, she defeated heavyweights like Nafi Sakir, A.A. Wilson, and Breanna Stewart, names that had long dominated the league. What a declaration. Everyone believed that this was just the beginning of an incredible run, and teammates were ecstatic. However, calamity struck suddenly, just as things were reaching their zenith. During a furious dispute with the Connecticut Sun, Clark abruptly turned away and grimaced in agony. She aggravated a persistent groin strain that she had been covertly battling for weeks towards the end of the game. The arena became silent as cameras captured her limping and gripping her side. Supporters held their breath. Was the golden star of the Fever going to go down? In an attempt to soothe everyone, Coach Stephanie White assured them that Clark would undergo a thorough evaluation. However, hope soon gave way to heartache. On July 17th, just a few days after winning WNBA Player of the Year, Caitlin revealed shocking news. She missed the entire WNBA All-Star Weekend in 2025. This meant that there would be no three-point competition or All-Star game, and worse yet, both would take place at her home stadium in Indianapolis. The fans were devastated. Caitlin was meant to take center stage in front of her city at this time. Clark expressed her sadness and disappointment on the internet, but she also acknowledged that her health had to come first. She also used broken heart emojis in a poignant statement to show her admirers how painful it was to take a step back.
Sure will be a big first step for me, but it's just one step for the WNBA. Thanks to all the great players like Cheryl Swoops, Lisa Leslie, Cynthia Cooper, the great Dawn Staley, and my best.
Nevertheless, in typical leader manner, she pledged to attend and support her comrades from the sidelines. The decision demonstrated extreme maturity by prioritizing long-term well-being before immediate fame. However, the WNBA still needed to fill a void in the three-point competition. They also didn't have to look very far. Caitlin's own Fever teammate, Lexy Hull, was called up. All season long, she had been blazing, especially from deep. It was time for her to take center stage. Throughout the season, Lexy Hull had been a quiet killer. She was the ideal pick to replace Caitlin in the game because of her three-point percentage, which was among the best in the league. Although she might not make headlines like Clark, coaches, and true Hoops fans had noticed. The lights could be shot out by this woman. She has quietly become one of the Fever's most dependable weapons due to her focus, dedication, and lethal accuracy. Now, it was more than simply an honor to replace Clark in such a large-scale limelight. It was a great deal of duty, given that the tournament would be held in her hometown of Indianapolis. The entire league, as well as thousands of new viewers, would be present. Hull was prepared for it, too. His was her opportunity to honor her injured comrade, represent the Fever, and demonstrate to the world her resilience under duress. However, there was pain hidden behind the excitement. Only a few days prior to being announced as Clark's replacement, Lexy experienced a tragic loss. After being at her side for 14 years, her cherished dog Maggie passed away. Hull penned a heartfelt ode to Maggie online, calling her the loveliest Mags and acknowledging that life would never be the same without her. He also shared black and white pictures of their times together. It was a powerful blow to the fans. Her all-star moment felt much more significant all of a sudden, driven by pride, anguish, and purpose. Lexy Hull was the center of attention when All-Star Saturday finally arrived. Could she take the strain? The throng was noisy, the lights were dazzling, and social media was constantly humming. This wasn't merely a practice run. This served as Lex's tryout for the role of superstar.
This is wild. WNBA All-Star Weekend. It's supposed to be the star of all stars. All the big dogs is out. Asia Wilson, Sabrina Ionescu, Brianna Stewart, everybody's out. The big dogs are out. You got the rookie, you got Angel Reese, Miss Me Too. All of the stars are here. And look at this news. The get-in price for the WNBA All-Star Game in Indianapolis has dropped 48% from $121 to just $64 after news broke that Caitlin Clark won't be playing.
Veins. She moved to the rack as the horn sounded. Pure, clean, and self-assured, shot after shot tore past the net. The Indianapolis crowd stood up and yelled her name with each swoosh. For a brief instant, it seemed as though this was her night and city, and the Fever was still making waves on the largest stage without Caitlin Clark. Support for Hull flooded internet comment sections as fans went crazy. She appeared like a hidden treasure who was suddenly able to shine, according to many. Every rack she cleared was greeted with cheers by Caitlin, who was seated courtside in street clothes. That display of deference terrifies me. Lexy proved she belonged with the league's best shooters by filling a space and creating her own moment by the end of the competition. She made the phrase, "From heartbreak to spotlight." She was more than prepared for the moment. The arena held their breath when the scores were announced. Lexy Hull was only one shot away from winning the entire competition after finishing in second place overall. Her name was chanted by the crowd as if she had just hit a game-winning shot in the championship game. It was a turning point that established her as one of the league's most lethal shooters for a player who wasn't even expected to be present. Social media exploded. Her admirers refer to her as the quiet sniper, claiming that she earned her roses in a single evening. Even national experts who had previously seldom spoken of her were now tweeting screenshots of her with textbook-perfect captions. With tears in her eyes, Caitlin Clark, who was still recovering from her groin injury, gave her friend a hug after the competition. Despite the anguish, she smiled and told reporters, "Lexy held it down for us tonight." Just that quote went viral. Two colleagues came together out of mutual respect, heartache, and a desire to succeed. The narrative had changed. The weekend shifted from being about Clark's absence to being about Hull's arrival. Her season, and possibly her career, had been altered by a single flash of opportunity. The media was unable to quit discussing it. Is a new star about to emerge?
5 games with the injury, the quad, keeping Caitlin Clark on the sidelines. But Trevor, she was back today for...
Sports programs repeatedly aired Lexy Hull's immaculate stroke, discussing whether she and Caitlin Clark should become the Fever's permanent faces. Hot takes were immediately added by fans. Some even made the quip, "Lexy is the sniper, but Caitlin is the queen." Side-by-side highlight films contrasting their shooting techniques were all over social media. One post that went viral said, "Clark's range. Hull had 2 assassins because of his precise fever." The story had changed entirely. What was meant to be a weekend dedicated to Caitlin's tragic absence had instead become a demonstration of the fever's extreme severity. Following the competition, Caitlin shared a photo of herself cuddling with Lexy on Instagram, writing, "To say that she is proud would be an understatement." She deserved the opportunity. Within hours, that one post received hundreds of thousands of likes. However, the question lurked underneath the festivities. For what duration would Caitlin be absent? Fans were clamoring for updates, and the Fever needed their star back for the playoff push. For Clark, this injury was more than simply a personal setback. The whole franchise was holding its breath. While Caitlin Clark was the center of attention, Lexy Hull's fame was rising. To what extent was her injury severe? Could she make a comeback before to the Fever's postseason run? The team doctors provided only hazy updates and remained silent. Although there isn't a timeline yet, she is making good progress. Fans were worried about the ambiguity, and media sources were speculating. According to certain insiders, the Fever was thinking about closing Clark down early to protect her long-term health. Others argued that she would endure suffering in order to be present when it was most important. Online, the argument went viral. If she is able to walk, rest her for future matches. Thanks to the tremendous contributions of guys like Hull, the Fever continued to win just enough to remain in the running for the playoffs. But it was obvious what the elephant in the room was. Their superstar was needed. Would Indiana be able to compete without Caitlin at her best? Clark made a succinct yet impactful message to end her quiet. "I'm making every effort to return when it counts most. I promise that I will be prepared."
Doing everything I can to be back when it matters most. Trust me, I'll be ready.
Story we have been following throughout the past 2 days surrounds the superstar herself, Caitlin Clark, the WNBA star, the Indiana Fever star, Caitlin Clark. She's going to miss all the action on the court.
The sorrowful post by Lexy Hall about losing Maggie went viral right away. Thousands of players and supporters hurried to express their affection. However, two signals were particularly clear. Caitlin Clark responded by saying, Caitlin Clark had to swallow the pain of missing an event she dreamed about just days after winning one of the biggest awards of her life. After more than 10 years of companionship, Lexy Hall was mourning the loss of her cherished dog. Sophie Cunningham was the Indiana Fever's emotional pillar through it all, providing love, support, and safety just when they needed it most. These three female athletes demonstrated that being a professional athlete involves more than simply spectacular plays and crowded stadiums. It all comes down to supporting one another when life becomes tough, WY encouraging teammates, offering consolation, and sticking together when things become tough. They demonstrated that excellence is determined by more than just numbers. Their relationship became something that viewers couldn't ignore. Supporting sentiments flooded social media. Comments like, "This is what a real team looks like," are posted by fans. In addition, these women serve as role models outside of basketball. Something changed in the energy. This was no longer solely about victories and defeats. It was about resiliency in the face of grief, love, and loyalty. This chapter evolved into more than simply a difficult time for Caitlin, Lexy, and Sophie. Fans nationwide will always remember it as a tale of real sisterhood.
We shall never know peace, at least when it comes to the WNBA space. It was this ad that Angel put out, and I don't know if this is part of a larger campaign where it's going to be similar themes in similar places, but because of where the WNBA All-Star Game is, and because of who plays on the Indiana Fever in the home city of the WNBA All-Star Game, it's going to raise some eyebrows.
Who took home the trophy, or who dropped the most points, wasn't the goal of this. It has to do with something much more significant: how they interacted with one another during difficult times. Not all of the Indiana Fever's games were played as a team. They moved together as a family, supporting one another through both success and suffering. Caitlin Clark was resolved to recover and return stronger. With both enthusiasm and a sorrowful heart, Lexy Hall entered the three-point competition. Sophie Cunningham continued to be the emotional fulcrum, the guardian, and the fire that kept everyone confined and united. That they were sisters rather than merely teammates. Women who supported each other when life attempted to bring them down, and who were there for each other when it counted most. That solidarity deeply affected the fans. Highlight reels and statistics weren't what won people over. It was their devotion, love, and bravery when it mattered most. This incident served as a reminder to everyone in a society that is fixated on victories and defeats. The greatest wins don't always appear on the scoreboard. They take place outside the court when love and friendship triumph over all other factors. What matters most are those moments. The Indiana Fever have more than just a wealth of talent. They are driven by their hearts. And when Sophie Cunningham and Lexy Hall supported Caitlin Clark, that heart was clearly there. And when the three of them supported one another through hardship, loss, and stress, this goes beyond basketball. Fans all throughout the world are feeling the force of this family in motion. People's perceptions of the game itself are shifting as a result of their celebration, protection, and refusal to allow life's setbacks break them. What do you think then? Does a team have an advantage that cannot be measured by a stat sheet because of this kind of bond? Post your opinions in the comment section.
Tell your team about this.
To ensure that you never miss the true story behind the highlights, hit the like button, subscribe, and enable notifications. See you at the following one. Displaying unadulterated concern for her teammate as Sophie Cunningham's letter struck a deep chord. "No, I'm very sorry, Lex." The sorrow was palpable through the television. It went beyond just sympathies. It demonstrated a genuine sisterhood, which is uncommon in professional athletics.